There is a moment, a flashpoint, in the military where every bit of your training, every sacrifice, every slight you've ever endured, either pays off instantly or costs you everything. For me, Captain Sierra Jones, that moment happened not during a deployment, but right in the blazing heat of Camp Delta Ridge, Arizona, and it was delivered by four mouthy, arrogant recruits who thought my lack of a jacket meant I was there to serve them coffee. It's a story about what happens when institutional prejudice collides with earned authority, and trust me, by the time the dust settled, those four boys weren't just discharged, they were permanently, profoundly broken by the lesson. My path to this point wasn't a straight shot, not by a long mile. I'd spent 9 years in service, built my entire career on the foundation of my father's words. He was a proud Army veteran, and I remember him lacing his boots every morning, the smell of leather and polish, and he'd always tell me, "Sierra, strength isn't about who's loudest in the room. It's about who stands their ground when no one else will." I carried that quiet truth with me like extra armor, because being a black woman navigating the ranks, you learn fast that every step forward is an uphill climb. From the day I enlisted, the whispers started, the doubts, the smirks, the backhanded compliments that felt sharper than any insult. "You sure you can handle that rifle, pretty girl? You'd make a great cook in the mess hall." I knew what they were doing. They were trying to chip away at my confidence, at my right to belong. But I never fired back with anger. I let my discipline do the talking. Through years of grueling field tests, sandstorms, and deployments, I rose, from private, to sergeant, to lieutenant, and finally, to Captain Sierra Jones. I had the medals, the respect of my peers, and the quiet, solid confidence of someone who had earned her place, bolt by difficult bolt. I thought I'd left those old, petty doubts behind, but prejudice, like a bad weed, always finds a way to poke its head up where you least expect it. It was a scorcher of an afternoon at Camp Delta Ridge. The heat was a living thing, shimmering above the cracked dirt, making every breath a conscious effort. I was off duty, sitting outside my tent, catching a sliver of shade, focused on my task. I had a rag and a tin of polish, meticulously working on my combat boots, the only piece of gear that truly felt like mine. I was wearing simple camo pants and a white tank top, no jacket, no visible insignia, nothing to denote rank. To a raw, unseasoned eye, I was just a woman, a contract worker, maybe a cleanup crew member. To four fresh recruits, I was definitely not a captain. Blake, Kyle, Trent, and Leo, these were the boys. Pale as new paper, full of cheap swagger, just graduated boot camp and convinced they owned the base and everyone on it. They strutted by, cracking loud, obnoxious jokes, sizing up every soldier they passed. When they spotted me, sitting there focused on my boots, the thought process must have been immediate and satisfyingly prejudiced for them. Here's a soft target. Here's someone to push around. Blake was the first, his voice carrying that smug, know-it-all drawl that makes my blood pressure spike even now. He pointed right at my boots. "Hey," he called out, "mine could use a little shine, too, don't you think?" I looked up slowly, letting my eyes meet his, my expression deliberately calm. "Excuse me." Blake grinned, enjoying the sudden attention of his buddies. "You heard me. Polish 'em up. Get to work." Kyle stepped forward, laughing that loud, nervous laugh of someone who knows he's doing something wrong but feels safe in the numbers. "Man, why do you people always got to have an attitude? Just do what you're told for once." "You people." I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper, but the air around me suddenly turning cold. The internal alarm bells were screaming now. Trent chimed in from the side, enjoying the circle they were forming around me, cutting off my movement. "Yeah, you heard him. Don't act like you're above it." I stood up slowly, deliberately, my full height challenging their loose circle. I didn't reach for a radio. Not yet. Is this some kind of sick prank? Do you even realize who you're talking to? Will, or maybe it was Leo, they were all interchangeable layers of entitlement, smirked, leaning close, dripping venom. "I don't know who you are, but I know what you can be, my bitch." The laughter that followed was cruel, careless, and infectious among the four of them. For a split second, I saw red, hot and consuming. But my father's voice, that old, steady mantra, cut through the rage. Never let them see you lose control. Stay calm, then strike with purpose. I exhaled, a long, controlled breath. "You boys need to walk away now. This is your last chance." Blake folded his arms, his confidence reaching its absolute peak. Quiet. Monkey. Don't they teach you manners in Africa? That word, that hateful, utterly dehumanizing slur, cut through the Arizona heat like a bullet. I froze for one long second, absorbing the impact, feeling the sting of every bias, every doubt, every slight I had ever endured in my career coalescing into that one ugly sound. I took a single, deliberate step forward, just enough to make Blake's eyes widen. "Watch your mouth, boy," I warned, my voice low and dangerous. "You're standing on thin ice." He sneered, emboldened by my lack of physical aggression. "You people are a stain that needs to be removed. The fact they even let you in this camp, it's embarrassing." From behind the tents, I caught a flash of movement. Major Ethan Bell, my friend and colleague, was walking toward us, having heard the raised voices. I subtly raised my hand, just a fraction. Blake, blinded by his own toxic pride and convinced that I was all talk, took the bait. He laughed, that short, arrogant bark of a laugh. "You really think an ape like you can take me down?" "I don't think, Blake," I said, a faint, almost pitying smile curving my lips. "I know." And that was the end of the conversation. Without warning, he lunged, a sloppy, predictable swing, the kind of movement that tells you everything you need to know about the lack of real training beneath the swagger. But I moved like lightning. I caught his wrist mid-swing, not with brute force, but with precise, geometric efficiency. I used his forward momentum against him, twisting the joint, redirecting his aggression, and slamming him to the ground in one fluid, perfect counter-motion. His face hit the dirt with a painful, satisfying thud. Blake groaned, disbelief warring with pain. "What the hell?" Before he could finish, I planted my boot beside his head, not on it, but close enough to assert absolute dominance, and said quietly, my voice barely reaching him, "Now that's called control. You might want to learn it." Kyle, the one who had started with "you people," charged next, shouting like a bull. Again, the movement was immediate and automatic. I sidestepped his charge, let his weight carry him past, grabbed his arm as he went by, and flipped him clean over my shoulder. He landed flat on his back, the wind knocked out of him, gasping for air and staring up at the harsh sun. The other two recruits, Trent and Leo, froze. Their laughter was gone. The silence of shock, of absolute terror, had taken its place. They backed away slowly, shaking their heads, their hands held open in a silent, useless gesture of surrender. They knew, instantly, irrevocably, that they were out of their depth. A crowd had formed by now, soldiers, lieutenants, even a few high-ranking sergeants who'd heard the commotion and rushed over. Everyone was looking, silent, stunned witnesses to the physical and social implosion of four entitled young men. Then, a booming voice cut through the silence, a voice that carried real, unshakable authority. "What is going on here?" General Thompson, a white man in his 50s, sharp, no nonsense, stepped forward. I straightened immediately, coming to a perfect, rigid attention. "Just teaching these recruits a little lesson in respect, sir." The general looked at the two men coughing dust on the ground, then back at my entirely calm, immaculate posture. "And who started this lesson, Captain?" "They did, sir," I answered without flinching. "They mistook me for a servant, got mouthy, and decided to test their luck." General Thompson looked down at the pale, stunned faces of the recruits. "You attacked your superior officer. Do you even know who this is?" Blake stammered, still winded, the realization finally hitting him. "Sir, we didn't know she was that." The general interrupted him, his voice cold. "That is Captain Sierra Jones, the highest-ranking officer on this side of the camp. Get up." The air was sucked out of the field. And then, Major Ethan Bell, who had been watching from the shadows, stepped forward and handed me my uniform jacket. The silver insignia of my captain's rank gleamed brightly as I slipped the jacket on, my eyes never leaving the defeated recruits. Gasps rippled through the onlookers. The same woman they mocked, they tried to sexually degrade, and they assaulted, had just physically dismantled two of them and outranked every single man in their miserable little circle. I turned slightly toward the forming crowd, my voice clear and steady, projecting the final, inescapable truth. Let this be a lesson. Respect isn't about color, gender, or age. It's about character. And if you can't respect the uniform, no matter who's wearing it, you don't deserve to wear it at all. General Thompson nodded, his expression grim. "Pack your things," he said to the recruits, his voice cold with finality. You're done here. Immediate dishonorable discharge for all 4. The recruits, their pride shattered and their careers over before they even started, stood frozen. They turned and walked away under the crushing weight of their irreversible humiliation. As the crowd dispersed, the silence of the camp was different. It was respectful. Major Ethan Bell approached and said softly, "You didn't have to handle it alone, you know." I smiled faintly, looking down at the dust settling beneath my newly polished boots. "Oh, I did, Ethan. Some lessons, they only sink in when they come with a little pain." I looked toward the barracks where the 4 recruits were headed. They'll remember it for the rest of their lives. That incident became legendary at Camp Delta Ridge. Everyone knew my rank now, but more importantly, they knew my strength. I felt no pride or victory, just peace, because once again, I had used discipline, not aggression, to teach a lasting lesson in humility. So, here's my question for you. Do you think General Thompson was right to give those 4 recruits an immediate dishonorable discharge, or should they have been given a chance to learn that lesson through hard labor? And when facing prejudice, is it more powerful to respond with words, or with a controlled, physical demonstration of competence? Drop your salutes and your toughest opinions in the comments below, and let's discuss the true price of arrogance versus integrity. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Voices Unchained.